In the ever-shifting arena of global trade, where economic policies often double as political theater, President Donald Trump's latest barrage of tariffs has reshaped the landscape in ways that echo through boardrooms, farms, and households alike. As an expert who spent 2 decades dissecting the intricacies of American politics, I've seen tariffs wielded as blunt instruments before. Think of the Smoot-Hawley Act of the 1930s, which deepened the Great Depression, or the more recent trade wars under Trump's first term. But this sweeping initiative, effective from August 7, 2025, marks a bold escalation, imposing rates from a baseline 10% up to a staggering 50% on goods from more than 90 countries. It's a move that Trump himself heralded on social media as a triumph, proclaiming that billions of dollars in tariffs are now flowing into the United States of America today. Yet beneath the bravado lies a complex web of consequences, both intended and unforeseen, that could redefine alliances, strain economies, and test the resilience of nations worldwide. Let's start by unpacking the scope of these tariffs, which U.S. Customs and Border Protection began enforcing with meticulous efficiency. This isn't a targeted strike, but a broad-spectrum assault on international commerce. Major trading partners are feeling the heat. Brazil, for instance, is slapped with a punishing 50% levy, a rate that could cripple its agricultural exports like soybeans and beef, which have long found a lucrative market in the U.S. Switzerland, often seen as a bastion of neutrality and precision engineering, faces 39%, potentially hiking the cost of everything from luxury watches to pharmaceutical ingredients. Laos and Myanmar are hit with 40%, exacerbating their already fragile economies amid regional instability. Even stalwart allies aren't spared entirely. The European Union, Japan, and South Korea are now operating under 15% rates. But Trump's ambitions don't stop at conventional goods. He's floated a jaw-dropping 100% tariff on foreign-made computer chips, with carve-outs for companies willing to invest in U.S. manufacturing. Apple, sensing the winds of change, has pledged a massive $100 billion in domestic investments, a move that could shield it from the worst. As Trump put it in his post, these levies elevate U.S. tariffs to their highest levels in centuries, evoking the protectionist eras of the 19th century when America shielded its nascent industries from European competition. The domestic fallout in the United States is already palpable, and as a commentator who's tracked economic policies through boom and bust, I can tell you this: tariffs are taxes in disguise, often borne by the very citizens they're meant to protect. According to a Yale Research Center's analysis, these new tariffs could add an extra $2,400 annually to the average American family's expenses. That's not pocket change, it's the equivalent of a month's groceries for many households or a hit to the holiday budget. By July 2025, the U.S. government had raked in over $150 billion from existing tariffs. A windfall that's padded federal coffers, but at what cost? June's Consumer Price Index revealed rising prices for appliances, clothing, and furniture, items that rely heavily on imported components. U.S. importers absorb the initial blow, but they invariably pass it on to consumers, creating a ripple effect that squeezes middle-class wallets. Beyond North America's borders, the tariffs are reshaping global supply chains in profound ways. Exporters from diverse corners of the world are scrambling to adapt, often at great expense. India, for example, is staring down a potential jump from 25% to 50% on its goods, triggered by its purchases of Russian oil amid the ongoing Ukraine conflict. This isn't just about economics, it's entangled with energy geopolitics, where Trump's administration seeks to punish nations that circumvent U.S. sanctions. South Africa, meanwhile, is sounding alarms over job losses as these tariffs erode its competitive edges in minerals and manufactured goods, forcing exporters to pivot toward thinner margin markets in the Middle East, Asia, and Africa. Imagine the human toll: factories idling, workers laid off, communities disrupted, all because of a policy born in Washington. The lesson here is clear: in an interconnected world, no economy is an island. Countries are racing to reroute their exports, forging new alliances and supply lines that could permanently alter trade flows. This brings us to Canada, America's northern neighbor and closest ally, where the tariffs have landed with particular force, igniting a diplomatic and economic drama that's as riveting as any political thriller. On August 1, 2025, Trump's administration cranked up the pressure, imposing 35% tariffs on non-USMCA goods from Canada. Now, to be fair, Over 85% of bilateral trade remains tariff-free under the Canada-U.S.-Mexico Agreement, CUSMA, a pact that Trump himself renegotiated during his first term. But the targeted sectors, softwood lumber, which already groans under heavy duties, steel and aluminum, certain manufactured goods, are reeling from these added barriers. It's like layering weights on a runner mid-race. The core strength holds, but the pace slows, and fatigue sets in. Take Ontario, Canada's economic powerhouse, and a microcosm of this shifting dynamic. As both a major grain producer and importer, the province plays a pivotal role in North American agriculture. It buys vast quantities of U.S. grains, making it the top customer for farmers in 35 to 40 American states, a symbiotic relationship that sustained rural economies on both sides of the border. Yet, with these new 35% tariffs biting into non-USMCA shipments, Ontario exporters are diverting Canadian-grown grain away from the U.S. and toward Europe. However, it comes with a sting for American farmers. If cross-border buying dries up, they lose a reliable, high-volume customer. It's a reminder that trade wars have no true winners, only degrees of loss. In Ottawa, Prime Minister Mark Carney, whose steady hand at the Bank of England and now in Canadian politics, has earned him a reputation as a pragmatic navigator of crises, has been measured in his response. Just a day after hinting at possibly lifting some counter-tariffs on American goods to ease pressures on Canadian industries, Carney convened his cabinet and provincial premiers for a unified strategy session. His directive was straightforward. Control what we can control, keep channels open with Washington, avoid hasty deals that could backfire, and safeguard domestic sectors from immediate damage. The plot thickened dramatically around the August 1st deadline, revealing the capricious nature of Trump's trade playbook. In a social media post, Trump declared, "The August 1st deadline is the August 1st deadline, it stands strong and will not be extended." Yet mere hours later he announced a 90-day extension for Mexico, posting, "We have agreed to extend for a 90-day period." This about-face wasn't lost on observers. On July 31st, the White House had insisted no extensions would be granted, no delays, no exceptions. The world braced for blanket 35% tariffs on nations without fresh deals. But as the clock ticked toward midnight, Mexico was spared, while Canada was not. Why the disparity? Trump's spokesperson cited Mexico's unique situation due to the shared southern border and cooperation on curbing drug and human trafficking. But peel back the layers, and inconsistencies emerge. Canada shares an even longer border with the U.S., over 5,500 miles, the world's longest undefended frontier. Energy flows northward. Canada supplies more than 4 million barrels of oil daily, per the U.S. Energy Information Administration, making it America's premier foreign energy provider. The answer lies in politics, not policy. Hours before tariffs activated, Trump invoked Canada's recognition of Palestine as a sticking point, an issue utterly divorced from trade, rooted instead in foreign policy divergences. Trump's own words betray this mindset. They have to pay a fair rate, that's all, it's very simple. They have been charging very, very high tariffs to our farmers very badly. They've been treating our country very badly for years. And look, we like Canada, I love Canada, I have so many friends in Canada, but they've been very poorly led. Yet, Canada didn't flinch. No frantic concessions, no 11th hour pact. Over 80% of exports remain tariff-free under CUSMA, affording breathing room and leverage. Fast forward to midsummer 2025 and relations have chilled further. Trump, en route to Scotland aboard Air Force One, dropped a bombshell. The U.S. might abandon pursuing a new trade deal with Canada, letting tariffs suffice. We haven't really had a lot of luck with Canada. We have the confines of a deal with China. We don't have a deal with Canada, he mused. Yet, Canada stood resolute. No bad deal, period. The economic ripple is evident. A July 2025 Canadian Chamber of Commerce report shows nearly 30% of exporters redirecting from the U.S., with 37% sourcing non-American inputs. This diversification, toward Europe-Asia, signals eroded trust. After generations of integration, Canadian firms are building buffers, potentially costing the U.S. a vital partner. Why forego a pre-deadline accord? The 2026 CUSMA review looms, a chance to overhaul the pact. Carney eyes it as the true arena, where a hasty settlement now could dilute leverage. Amid the uncertainty, major industrial projects press on, symbolizing Canada's commitment to economic fortitude. Volkswagen's $7 billion PowerCo battery plant in St. Thomas, Ontario, continues apace. a beacon for the electric vehicle sector that could create thousands of jobs. Yet even here, tariffs cast shadows. Procurement delays and inflated costs are hampering initiatives like the Amherstburg Fire Department's acquisition of a $3.1 million US-made fire truck, which now faces a 3-year build timeline amid supply shortages. In human terms, tariffs disrupt lives. South African miners face layoffs. Ontario importers grapple with higher costs. Even U.S. consumers pay more for basics, questioning protectionism's value. Ultimately, these tariffs test global order. Will they restore U.S. dominance or accelerate multipolarity? For now, the drama unfolds, with Canada exemplifying strategic patience in turbulent times. Carney's approach, measured, multilateral, contrasts Trump's bravado. By eyeing 2026, Canada positions for holistic gains, integrating climate, security. As tariffs embed, adaptation accelerates.